pick up a lot of things that will be helpful for you, that you can, for lack of a better term, is putting into your toolkit, to help you, as you guys go, develop and grow, and both physically and mentally. Okay, so without further ado.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Are you sticking around or leaving?
I'll probably do it.
Yeah, we'll come get you when you do. It hasn't happened yet, right? So, very good. So, it's great to see all of you. How many of you have worked with me before? If you don't mind saying. You don't have to say it. Okay, great. Hey, back there.
Do you mean like one-on-one or like?
Like here,
Oh,
anywhere,
yeah.
anywhere. You just are familiar with what I do. Okay, great. And so no one else has worked with me before. Okay, so for those of you who have worked with me before, when you see something that you've done before, I want you to remember what your baseline was like the first time you did it, and see if anything has changed now that you know things that you didn't know before. And the answer to that is probably yes, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Also, if any of you want to share insight when Ryan does, and he starts talking about and sharing some stories with us about how you've used some of these techniques before, or how important you've realized that it is, feel free to share that, because we really need to get the message out in a more structured way to athletes, how they can finish off this triangle. You guys have been working for what, last night and today, on physical and technical? Okay, and so if you have all of that in place, and you've worked hard all season, and you leave the mental part to chance for your championship meet, that's a bad idea, right? And so I'm curious, and I'll ask in a bit, we're gonna have time to just focus on 3 areas today. Attention and focus, and some motivation, but pressure. We want to focus on pressure, because that's always the big one that everyone brings up, the anxiety and the pressure, and what happened when everything was going well in season and it doesn't generalize to the competition. Has that ever happened to any of you? Yeah, right? So there are no guarantees, right? No matter what you do. So I'm encouraged that you raised your hand, because it's got to make them, relate to that and feel better, because so many times, and I know even recently with the national meet, there were so many swimmers at that level even very, very disappointed, and it seemed like everything was going right.
Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, great.
Really when I was in high school was when I noticed it the most. I'd always have these great practices, have these great training seasons, would work super, super hard. And I get to the big meet, and I would just be disappointed. I either wouldn't go best times, or just didn't reach my goal times. And I remember when I got to my senior year, I took 5 recruiting trips in the fall. This was between end of August and the end of October. I took 5 recruiting trips, and then we had states at the beginning of November. So I was basically swimming 5 days a week throughout the entire fall, going into states, and I dropped 2 seconds in my 100 back that year. And so that was kind of the first time I was like, wow, I really didn't think I was in great shape going into this meet, but that was my best time by a lot. So I feel like that's the first time that I realized that there's so much more to swimming than just the physical. And after that meet, I really tried to build on that, and just always make sure I was in a really good headspace, a really good zone going into these meets.
So that's helpful, and sometimes we overthink what we have to have in order to have a good swim, right? So that's great. And so, how about you guys in terms of your toolbox? Okay, and Jeff used that word, and I like to use it too, because I'm always looking for something I can use if I want to get better. Whether it's information or a technique, or a person that I need to talk to who may know more about the subject, or whatever it is I need to know. how many techniques do you all have right now to help you with the mental side of your training? Yes.
I have about like 3 techniques and how I mentally prepare my training.
Okay, that's great. Are you willing to share any of those? You can keep them a secret if you want to. Okay, so you've got 3 so far. Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Meditation.
Meditation, great. It's great. It's a great thing to do.
Your audios.
My audios, the self-hypnosis audios. Great. Yes.
Music.
Music, okay. Is there any particular kind of music? Hey, come on in. How are you? We just got started. Is that a chair right there? Yeah. We won't put you at the front of the room. Although that would be fun. Well, somebody will be coming up there. Yes. Staying positive, yeah. Having a positive mental attitude. Okay. Anybody else want to share? It's okay if you don't. Yes, perfect.
Try to make it fun.
Try to make it fun. That's something that you might want to step in and talk about that right now as a lead-in, because, you know, this works both ways. I consult with Ryan a lot of times to find out, you know, I'm working with this particular swimmer, and, you know, just from your perspective, is there anything you want to add? And that is one thing that always comes up.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it definitely always hasn't been easy to have fun. I felt like when I was swimming, and I was always looking forward to the end of the season. When I was swimming, and I was always thinking about my goal time, it just was not very fun for me. To be totally honest, like I don't write down goal times anymore. You know, I think about a race strategy and optimize the race strategy, and that's the way I do it. I think about breaking it down to the most simple part. So if you just thinking from right to left is one thing that I do that makes it really fun. So you start with the end of your season and you work from right to left. Like, what are the checkpoints along the way that I want to hit? And then you break it down even further. You're like, all right, this is the next checkpoint. What do I need to do in this practice to help myself get there? And then you break it down even further. Like, what do I need to do on each lap, on each stroke, on each catch to get to that point? So once I started breaking it down to more simple terms into some task that wasn't quite as daunting, it allowed me to stay in the moment a lot more in practice. So yeah, that was super helpful for me in making it fun. And then having great teammates, we started listening to music during practice, which helps a lot. So just learning to enjoy the atmosphere and really embracing that.
So staying in the moment, I like that you brought that up, of course, because there's many tools that you can use to accomplish that. A lot of people think, I don't have a problem with that, I don't have a problem with focus, but then they find out that they do. You know, they show up for their meet, it can be any meet, it could be a championship meet or any other meet, and they're distracted by something either before they got there or when they got there. It could be something that, you know, outside of swimming, you know, in your family life or with friends. It can be something in the environment at the pool. That's something we look at a lot, and I get you guys to try to work on is, if you're getting ready to go compete at a pool that you're not familiar with, look it up and take a picture of it, or at least a picture in your mind, so that when you get there, it's not unfamiliar, totally unfamiliar. And then, you know, learn some things that will help you control your environment whenever things come up that you couldn't plan for, whether it's your goggles break but in the moment you can do a lot more than you think you can. So we will do a couple of exercises to help you with that. How much breathing work have you all done? Not in the pool, but outside of the pool. And there are 2 different ways to look at it, for energy or to calm down. Yes.
So what we'll do with Coach Dale sometimes is we'll lay on the floor and we'll take a 3 count in,
Mm-hmm.
and then hold it for 1 second, and then a 4 count out, and we'll just calm our minds with that before practice.
That's a great exercise. We've done that in here with the senior group before, and it really does work to clear your mind and calm down. There are also breathing techniques to give you energy. because several things can happen. You can get to a meet and not have enough energy, right? And it's not necessarily because you didn't taper right, or it's just that something else is pulling from your energy and you need some more. You're just simply a little too relaxed. Does anybody get too relaxed or flat at meets? Okay, great. So we'll address both problems in terms of breathing. Did you have a comment? No. Okay, perfect. Anybody else? Okay. So that's something we want to go. Oh yeah, Ryan has a comment.
Yeah,
Very good.
I'm more used to calm down. And one of the things I do is we do yoga. So we'll do that maybe like 4 months before the big meet. And we attach our breathing with the yoga, with the stretching. So getting the calming effect of the breathing, and then you can like really get further into the stretches too. So that's the way I've used breathing.
That's a great way to use it. And also, if you add some affirmations with that, or just something specific, the mantra or something that you want to have in place so that you're not worried about where your mind goes in terms of the words that you either see or hear in your mind, that also can strengthen that. So that's a great idea. So, okay. So the other area, so we covered focus, is an attitude, winning attitude. Okay. And I've spoken in here before about this, but winning can mean something different to everyone. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win the whole event. It may mean that your goals are at that point, or what you want is to, a specific time or place, or just something about your technique that you've done in practice that you're working on. That's something we talked about this past summer, is being willing to win or lose, not give up that skill or whatever you're training in practice, to maintain that no matter what. It's hard, right?
100%. Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of time for changes in technique to really take hold. So, I mean, it's really just about being self-aware. What I do throughout the season is I draw my confidence from practice and where I'm improving there, because there's so many different factors going on at the meet. Sometimes you're flying 6 hours the day before a meet, and that's obviously going to impact your performance. Sometimes the food you're having at the meet isn't also sets to impact performance. So I like to evaluate myself throughout the season based on practice, how I'm feeling, how I'm performing on different sets. And so I think that helps mitigate the thoughts of, all right, I'm making these changes and I just went slower. It really helps me to just, take those adjustments and work it for an entire season, and see where it goes, and then evaluate yourself after it and see if it works or didn't work.
And that's been working pretty well for you, which is good. But I've also, and without saying any names, I've heard you talk to other elite athletes about this concept because they weren't willing to do that. And you cared enough to say, hey, look, you have to be willing to fail. It's not really failure, but to take whatever comes, to keep that up and learn to race the way that you're training. So, and I like that you've done that. Yep, very good. So let's do a demo. And I know some of you, who's had the bilateral stimulation? You've had it. Anybody else? Jacob's had it. Okay, very good. Well, whether you've had it or not, won't matter. We're gonna should we get somebody to demonstrate it, and then I'll do it, or do you want? Do you think we have a volunteer? Do you think Ryan should volunteer, or? Yeah. You're in. Okay. So let's do that. You might be next. So yeah, is there another chair anywhere?
Yeah.
It's fine. Well, you're. Oh wait, we have one. But thanks, because you're so far away. Yeah. So here's a water bottle for you. And then just be thinking, because I'll be asking for about 6 volunteers in a little bit. Yeah, have a seat. Maybe if I stand next to you, we'll be the same height. That would be great. So look in your book, and just so you know, if you go back to where I have all of your techniques, it would be page 37, bilateral stimulation. And this gives you a little bit longer explanation than what I'm going to do now, because I'm going to do more of a demo. But basically what this technique is designed for is anxiety of any kind. It can be anxiety, with respect to performance. It can be anxiety about, what if you have a test, anxiety about approaching, maybe talking to your coach when he's not happy with you, or, what other situations can you think of that you might be anxious in that you could use a technique for? Yes?
For a test.
For a test, absolutely. Yeah, and I'll tell you how to. We're gonna use these water bottles, which really exaggerates the technique. But you can use a pen. Eventually, you can get so good you just use your mind. You can use a ball to toss around, whatever. But we want to exaggerate it, so we're going to do that. So, but basically, what the technique does is it stimulates both hemispheres of the brain. Okay, so we know that when you're practicing, we want you to use the part of your brain that learns and processes, and I've actually got a picture of it right there. So on the left side there, you've got your logical, verbal, digital, symbolic, order, math, rational, objective. You see where I'm going with that. Very analytical side of the brain. When you're competing, that is something you want to turn off, okay? So it's important to know when to use what. We want to use sort of, that's where music, emotion, I just want to point out some of the things that are on creativity. We want to use your subconscious mind because there's a lot back there, and we want to tap into it. But mainly, for this particular technique, we want to use both hemispheres so that if we're going to stop a thought process that's upsetting you or causing you to have some interference with your performance, or just the way you feel, or your test. I mean, how many people in here have at one time or another been affected by a bad grade on the test because you were nervous? Right? So it's very, very common. And then, what you find is that you second guess yourself, right? Because you're so anxious. But if you're focused and you can just kind of clear your mind when that happens, even if it's in sort of the front part, the middle, wherever, you're going to do better and you start to relax. So in order to do that, you've got to do something that they know, and Stanford University did the biggest study on this, that they know that it's impossible for you to tap in to that worry thought or think about anything after 2 minutes of doing this technique. So, and I will tell you, 2 minutes is a long time. So you can check in before that 2 minutes is up. But with Ryan, I'm going to do the whole 2 minutes. I'm just going to ask somebody to tell me, David, do you have anything to time with? Yeah. Okay, can you tell me when a minute is up? Okay. And while he's doing it, do the same, just do it along with him. Okay, so you won't be staring at him the whole time. Not that he cares. People watch him all the time. So, okay, so turn around facing me. Feels good to sit, right? I thought we could sit here if we didn't have a chair. What would you? Oh, do you need a chair? Yeah. We're going to give you one of our chairs if there's not another one after we're finished. Okay, sorry. I saw you come in. All right, so Ryan, I want you to, and you don't have to tell me what it is. You never have to say what it is. But I want you to think of something that has upset you in the past. And maybe since we're talking about swimming, it could be that, right? A time when you were, needed to perform your best, or, you just had a goal in mind and something came up. And when you got it, just let me know. Take your time.
Yeah, I got it. I can tell that.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was, so last summer, 2017 Worlds, I went into the meet and I come off what was a great Olympics for me. Came in, I was a favorite, 100 and 200 back, Ended up getting third in the 100 back at Worlds, second in the 200 back. I got beat by a U.S. guy in the 100 back that I was swimming on the prelims relays, and this was also my first meet being sponsored. So swimming is my livelihood. Like, that's how I make money. So that was my first time thinking about financial consequences of performance, and so it just added an entirely different layer. So I remember I got out of the 100 back and I got third. I got beat by the U.S. guy, so I know I was going to be swimming in the morning relays, and there were financial implications of that. So, you know, I was really upset. I was really mad at myself, mad at my coach. I was mad at everyone, and yeah, so that was a time where I was really frustrated for about that. Yeah.
And so what I want you to do, just for a minute, is close your eyes. And I want you to go back to that time, okay? And I want you to, because we're here today and you're not as upset about it today, I want you to crank it up to the level it was back then. You know, I'm sure it was somewhere around an 8 or a 10 the way you described. A lot of worry thoughts, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, uncertainty. And when you get to an 8 or 10, just let me know and let me know what that number is. Okay?
Oh, wait, 8.
Okay, so you're at an 8. All right, you want to crank it up some more? Just really pull all the memory, everything you can into it. Yeah?
Yeah, that's there.
Okay, yeah. I promise I won't leave you there. Okay, very good. So now what I want you to do is you can open your eyes and just take this water bottle and hold it like, pretty much like this between, yeah. And just pass it, and I'll show you in a minute, just to right and to the center and the left, making sure that one hand stays in the center at all times, okay? And doing this requires both hemispheres of your brain. So, and I have David start that timer right now. I just want you to do it for a minute. Okay, there you go. It's always leaving one hand in the center at all times. And feel free, since you're not breathing, to take a breath in that center. Good job. And as he's doing that, I'm going to stop doing it because I won't be able to talk to you because my hemispheres will be messed up. But you just keep doing that, and you don't need to pay attention to me at all. Just pay attention to exactly what you're doing because it's really, really easy to take a detour on this, okay? Especially after a minute. And so as he's doing that, something that is good for you guys to pick up on is what I just did. When you notice that even a teammate or yourself holding your breath, you want to make sure you exhale and let that go. Okay? Because when we think of things that upset us in the past or the present, or we're future pacing, like Ryan had said something earlier about, and we're thinking about something we're worried about in the future, we have a tendency to hold our breath. And we know that's not really good for us, and it's not going to help us calm down and feel better. So, all right, past a minute, that's good. Okay, let's stop for a minute. Can you stop the timer? All right, and I'll just check in. Now we're on that scale from 0 to 10, where are you?
I mean, a little bit less, probably about 6 or 7.
Okay, that's good. So it came down quite a bit, right? Okay, I'm going to start the timer again. Let's go. So everybody kind of do this, so you get the hang of it. Remembering to breathe in the center. You can exaggerate that breath if you need to, because it's really easy to forget. Good job. It's a crazy little task, but if you don't think about it, go off the charts. There you go. Family drop it. Yeah, I was breathing into the microphone. Go ahead. David's going to let me know when it's been another minute. And Marcia and everybody, make sure there's a hand, make sure that you leave one hand in the middle. So you want to start like that. Yeah, there you go. Let's see. Anna, if you notice anybody maybe doing it incorrectly, can you let me know? Good job. A phone is a good idea back there. It's a great idea. You pay attention. Good job. Okay, stop. Now where are you?
Probably about a 3.
You're down to a 3. Okay, so that was just 2 minutes. So if he wants to get down to a 0, he has to keep going. But and he has to stay focused on, and it was hard because I'm like I'm flailing around. But the point is, that's how it's going to be. When you're trying to intensely focus on something for even 2 minutes, any distraction can get you off the path to clearing it within that 2 minutes, and we know that it works. And so that's something you might want to use. Can you think of, okay, we can kind of shift a little bit. Can you think of objects or situations that you could use other than if you don't want to make a production out of this, let's say you don't want someone to know you're doing it. What could you use? What could you use at a meet? Yes. A phone. Yeah, he just used his phone. That was a great idea. Yes.
Ear goggles or phone cap.
Perfect. Because you can have those. Those are legal, right? You can have them behind the blocks, and that's great. You can also, I think you're allowed to have an extra pair of goggles, right? So if those are in your parka, your pocket, or you can leave them with what you call the people, yeah, leave them in a basket official. But you could use those and just pass them. And no one's, if you could be down here. We were exaggerating, but it can be, and you can get so good at it, you don't need anything. You just, a lot of people toss balls around. So anything like that. But so in your book on that page, I would write down, there's a YouTube video, and you can just Google my name and bilateral stimulation, it's on there, and look at that YouTube video, and it'll go through the whole process with you. And it'll give you a little bit further explanation about the brain, and how this technique works for the brain. Okay, yes? I would just make a note to look up that YouTube video for that bilateral stimulation. Okay, thanks, Ryan. Good job. Okay, so let's move on to something else. We get y'all. Probably needs a book too. Oh, does he need a chair? You like that seat? Okay, very good. So let's do a demonstration about the power of the mind. Has anybody in here studied the power of the mind?
I need a book.
Oh, you do? Okay. Good. Anybody else need a book? Did you get one? Here you go. Perfect. And another one. So these are annoying. Yes, so I need 6 volunteers. Okay. Okay, Ryan, you're just gonna have to pick, because I know. And we can do it more than once. So, and bring your chair with you. we have 2, we need 4 chairs.
Then we'll go with guy.
Here we go. Each good one. There you go. Thanks for volunteering. And just line them up in a row. Why don't we do it across this way? That way. Somebody, you did not get one, right? Yes. Did you like that? Yeah, good. Good. Yes. You can. You might want to hurry though, because this won't last long. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is demonstrate the power of the mind. And we're going to use a few condensers to do that. This one though, I really like, because you can use anything that swings, It can be a timer, necklace, you guys can have a lanyard, anything. But for today we're going to use these timers because they were convenient and I didn't have to bring anything. Yeah. So what I want you to do is hold them up eye level. And the only thing I need you guys to do is kind of pay attention, because they're all going to be a little different, so that we can process what happens afterwards. You might want to come over here, Ryan, or you won't see. Up to you. Okay. Now I'm trying to turn this way so that I don't go back. Okay, so hold them high, eye level. When you have that, let me know. And keep it still. Okay. And now what I want you to do, even though there are a lot of people in the room, there are little noises here and there, I want you to really use your focus, to laser focus on the center of that timer, okay? And as you do, I want you to start to think only this thought, okay? Make sure it starts still. Everybody still? You're not still. Okay, there you go. Very good. So here we go. I just want you to stare at the laser focus at the center of that timer, and I want you to say front to back. Think front to back, just staring at that. If your attention drifts, I just simply want you to bring your attention, recognize it, and bring it back to the center. Thinking front to back, thinking that, thought only, front to back. Concentrating harder and harder, getting your concentration, your eyes focused to where they're almost uncomfortable because they're so focused on the center of that stopwatch, going front to back, allowing it to go back and forth as much as it wants to. It can go swing as hard or as soft, but it's front to back, focusing front to back. There you go. Now I want you to imagine that your mind is making a shift. It's keeping the center of that, but it's going around and around, round and around. You're just thinking the thoughts around and around. You're not manipulating or moving it in any way that you're trying to, but your mind is thinking around and around. And now I want your mind to shift again, and I want you to think side to side, side to side, almost as if you're just staring a hole through that and thinking the words. You can see the words in your mind. It's saying side to side. Okay, stop. You can put them down. Okay, what did you notice?
They move. They're wizards.
Well, they weren't trying. Were you trying to keep them still? Yes. So what happens? Whatever you focus on, your body responds. The ideomotor responses, those are those small little muscles, and all of those neurons in your brain they're working together, body and mind. And that's why that can happen. It's not magic. When you hear body and mind, a lot of times we think of yoga, right? But we don't understand how the brain works to make that happen. And so if you're thinking something that is going to hurt you, or is negative, or that maybe, I'm gonna scoot over here, or maybe someone made a comment to you and all of a sudden you're internalizing their comment instead of what you really believe in yourself, then you're gonna have a problem. Because your body may not be totally affected, you might have an okay swim or an okay test result, but you're not gonna have your best. Make sense? Do you guys like that? Anybody else wanna try it? Okay. All right, Ryan. You have to pick, because I don't really want to be the bad guy.
You're next to me.
I know. But we have video to show you what we're playing that. Yeah.
You're tapping your feet.
Yeah, just hurry right back. There you go.
You got volunteer? No, you got volunteer.
So you do it too?
All right. We'll get you in there. Yeah. And I think we got 3 guys. We gotta get a girl in there.
Yeah, you can bring your own chair. You know what? There are more stopwatches. We could probably do 10. Should we add a few more people? Okay. Anna, I can't go over there or it'll make a noise, but if you can grab about 4 more stopwatches. And if you did, we're going to add 4 more people, Ryan. We're going to add 4 more.
Oh, 4 more.
Yeah. Sorry, honey. There you go. Thank you. You're the best. I like that attitude. I really do. There you go. Perfect. untangle it.
I was calling shoes too.
There you go. I'm doing my best. Yeah, no, I come forward between them maybe. Only thing I didn't do was leave, is that extra? We have one more, just some, okay, no we don't. All right, oh, can I squeeze through here? I'm so sorry. So sorry, leave a spot for myself. Okay, so this time I might add one more thing. And I want you guys to know that at some point I tap you on the shoulder. Is that okay with you? Okay. So I just might whisper something to you, tapping you on the shoulder just a little bit. You might not do it, but we'll see what happens. Okay, I want you to always be confused and wondering what we're doing. Because confusion means that you're getting out of your head, out of that front part of the brain that we don't want you in right now, and into that back brain. So don't worry, we're going to need more volunteers after this. So, all right, so let's see. So Ryan, will you help me observe what's happening too? Okay. All right, so you know what to do, hold it eye level. And here's what I don't want you to do, and just keep it still. So you might have to put your hand on it for a second until I tell you to go. What I don't want you to do is try not to do anything, and I don't want you to try to do anything, okay? It's very important with this exercise. If you can master this, you'll have focus like you won't believe, okay? Just like holding 2 minutes with the bilateral stimulation is harder than it seems. Seems like a long time, right? Yeah, to do that. But if you went much longer, or you started to think about something else, like a couple of times you did, you start slowing it down so you can see the thinking in the wrong part of the brain. So here we go. Hold it up, eye level, and let's go. So I want you to focus on the center. Can you find the center? And when you do, don't change the center. Keep it the same. And keep both eyes laser focused on that. If you see anything in your peripheral vision to the right or the left, just ignore it and recognize it and bring your attention back to the center. And as you do, I want you to think only this. Around and around. Just want you to think around and around. Think of a circle. Think of a circle and think of that movement that goes around and around. Sorry. It doesn't matter if the circle goes left or right, or around the other way. But just let that go and allow your mind and your eyes to intensify even more. Laser focus on the very center of that. Very good. Good job. Round and around. Okay. Now what I want you to do is shift that focus. Not on the center. But look at the numbers or the back, if it has any specific markings, I want you to focus on those. Okay? So look for something else, but make sure your eyes don't deviate from that. If they do, just recognize and return. And as you do that, I want you to think very clearly. Because you're so good at this, I want you to think backwards and forwards. That flow, that motion of backward, like waves, backwards and forwards towards you, away from you. Towards you and away from you, backwards and forwards. Towards you and away from you, very good. And backwards and forward, swinging, swinging, swinging freely, backwards and forward. Making a shift now because your mind is so powerful. You don't need to move your eyes from that spot, but you do need to think this, side to side, swinging side to side freely, loosely, easily, from side to side. Swinging from right to left or left to right. It really doesn't matter. Just loosely, and maybe adding some speed. Thinking that it's moving quickly side to side. Moving quickly side to side. It's going all over the place now. It's just going all over the place. It doesn't know where to go. Right to left, front to back, around and around. It's just going to move freely. And your mind is trying so hard just not to do anything, but it's happening, isn't it? Okay, go ahead and stop. Put those down, and now let me know what you've observed. Let me tell you what happened first, and then you can tell me what happened here, because I didn't see a lot. I saw the ones I was working with. I added more suggestions, didn't I? And I also, I know, it's exciting though. I also loaded the language, right, emotionally, and I also loaded it in terms of using new words to make it more powerful and more movement. What were some of the words I added? Yes. Faster. Okay. Yes. Going all over the place. That's right. That's how our minds feel whenever we are anxious, right? Doesn't it feel like that? Like all of a sudden, not just your mind, but your body starts to feel like that as well. So, okay, great job. If you don't mind giving Anna those stopwatches and putting your chairs back, that was good. Good job. Did you notice before they go, who seemed to have the most reaction? Because it doesn't really matter whether it's subtle. Because I came in the back to make sure. You did? Okay. Very good. Yeah, so it was going, all right, good job. So what does that say about him? It says that his mind is very susceptible to suggestion, which is good. You know, that's a good thing as long as you're internalizing the right suggestions and you're listening to the right people. And maybe Ryan would like to speak to that while we're gathering how important it is to, you know, politely listen to all advice and suggestions, but to incorporate suggestions from, I don't want to give it away, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially as you get older, like there's just gonna be, there's so many things that keep on getting added to your plate. You know, like right now your parents take a lot of these suggestions for you, and like they filter it through for you. You know, they have a lot of people that are telling them stuff. But as you get to college, you know, you're taking everything head on. So you're getting all these suggestions from your teachers, your coaches, your teammates, and you really need to filter those through. So I mean, I think for me, I mean, I think the easiest thing I could talk about is before 2016. You know, I knew exactly what I wanted to do in that year, and I knew the plan that I had in place to get there. So that meant doing certain things in the water, doing certain things with nutrition, with my sleep. And I roomed with 4 other college guys. And while I did room with swimmers, you know, these weren't guys that had dreams of going to the Olympics. You know, they like being on the college team and all of that. So, you know, when I was on a Saturday, you know, like, which is your fun day, you know, like you're being fun that day. So I would be making this like really like nice meal, like quinoa, like chicken, vegetables, putting that all together, and they would be like, all right, come on, like let's have some pizza, something like that. And you just have to take it and just like think about it for a second, and then you get back to what you're doing. And it's like, I know exactly why I'm having this quinoa chicken and vegetables. And so like, yeah, I'll go with you, but I'm not gonna eat with you. So it's just like taking stuff like that and filtering through.
So it's a lot of that inner coaching that goes on where you have to say, no matter what, I'm sticking to my plan.
Totally.
And you know, you kind of demonstrated compromise where I'll go with you, but I'm not doing that. Because I want this 2016 more than that, right? Being pizza. Yeah, it was worth it, right?
It was totally worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still like a good friend. I was hanging out with him all the time, but
Yeah.
you know, definitely the way I was treating my body was a little bit different. So, you know, that would be my advice there.
And it hasn't changed. You know, when you keep moving up, I don't know how. I mean, you're so far up there, but you do. I mean, each time is a new test, a new. You're going to a new country, a new facility, and so. But you are also going to be always tempted by people who might not be on the same page or do things the same way.
Yeah, I mean, it always gets harder. For me now, like all my closest friends have real jobs and they're working out in San Francisco. So, you know, like for me, our lifestyles are completely different. So it does get more challenging with time in that aspect, but you know, you learn how to manage it and you know really stay headstrong on what you want to do.
Good job. Any questions about that, you guys? That exercise? Okay. All right, you guys can go back to your seats. We'll get some more volunteers in a few minutes. Yeah, take your chairs. I think it's great how we ended up with the perfect amount of chairs, because that's all they have. Oh, strong. Good thing. Was that fun? So I think it's important that we realize that learning about the brain, which we are learning about today in a fun way, it can be fun and easy. And also learning to relax and focus your attention and develop a winning attitude can be fun as well. And I think that's really important for one highlighted reason, and that is, as student athletes, you're extremely time poor. You don't have a lot of time to have fun or do extra things, or thinking about adding. I've seen many books. And this is mine. It's got just a little over 30 pages in it, 37. But I've seen a lot of books and read books by sports psychologists. But when are you going to read a 300-page book? Never. And when you're in college, is that even harder? And so, I know Ashley, you had a couple and they were interesting, but there's just nothing structured about, getting the information in small, easy increments. And so learning these kinds of things are easier and they're fun and they don't take much time to do. So let's talk about what I call power poses. And I just want you to freeze for a minute, wherever you're at. Unless you're turned around talking to someone, turn back around. There you go. See, I notice everything. Just freeze for a minute, and I want you to notice yourself. I don't want you to change anything. Not a foot, not an elbow, not the way your head is. And I want you to notice your posture right now. Okay? Just to notice. And what I want you to understand is that we know, based on Harvard studies, that there's a lady, her name is Amy Cuddy. She's done some wonderful work. And what we know is that your posture is very important in terms of how you feel, whether you feel powerful and confident and all the things you need to do to accomplish what Ryan has, or something that you have in mind in terms of a goal. And it also affects the perceptions of other people, the way they see you. And if you have a competitor that perceives you as being less confident, they're going to tap into that. And if they aren't already feeling better about themselves in relation to you, they're going to. And so what we know is, and I have a poster up here, higher power body language. You can now shift. I just want you to make a mental note so we can talk about it in a minute, okay? Higher power body language, okay, is on the top. See, they're all open positions. I've been watching Ryan since he's been here in terms of body language, and he's often expands. Have you ever noticed that? How when he's talking, he's always expanding, okay? Even when he sits down, he's not in a closed position, okay? Look at the lower power body language on the bottom row, okay? Doing a lot of folding. One hand, the hand on the neck represents a lack of confidence. It's kind of like, I've got to hang on to something. And then look at the posturing here. Obviously, it's very closed and inward, as if you're trying to protect yourself. And then here, and you can see a lot of people that cross their hands, they grip them as well. And they don't even know it. So let's talk about what you guys observed about your body language, and then we'll talk about some things, poses that we know that are helpful. Okay? What did you guys notice? Good. So, I want to hear from a few of you that had closed body position. Okay. Had you ever noticed that before? Okay. And so now it's something you'll think about, right? Because adding awarenesses to anything that will lead to you becoming more confident in general in life is going to help you tremendously. Okay? And so that's something that those of you that had the closed body position can work on as early as today. You know, watch yourself in the classroom. You know, try to start using postures that are more open. And we can kind of demonstrate some of those in a minute. Now, who in here had open body posture? More open? Okay. David, you? Yeah. You worked on yours some too, right? Good. What about when you're competing? You have it, close your eyes for a minute. And I want you to imagine, it can be, let's do it this way. I want you to think about the last meet that you, or event, that you swam, that you actually really liked the outcome. Okay? You had to like, in this one you have to like the outcome. And I want you to think about what you look like as you approach the blocks. What you maybe can recall that you were thinking, or just the general attitude. What was going on around you. And what your body posturing is. Because at this point, you can go ahead and open your eyes now. You have some kind, whether it's bad or good, helpful or hurtful, some kind of pre-meet routine, some kind of pre-competition routine that you do with your body prior to swimming, right before, right?
Yes.
Yep. Do you have a specific one? Or and has it changed? And
Yes.
why?
Yeah. So I mean, really, the time when I really started to think about my pre-race routine was after 2015. So at 2015 Worlds, I was on my first race was the prelims of the mixed medley relay, and went and did the 100 back, and I was 2/10 off the world record in 2015. So, you know, a great start to the meet. I dropped over a second. I was super excited about it, and then I felt like after that race, I started getting really excited. Started thinking so much about the outcome of the rest of the meet. So, you know, I felt like I self-imploded that meet because I was obviously in great shape based on that first race, and then the rest of the meet just didn't go the way I wanted it to. So after that, you know, I got into planning out what I'm gonna do when I get to the pool every time. So that's when I figured out what my pre-race routine is gonna be, like the stretches, my foam roll, how many times I warm up, what type of warm up I'm doing, and then throwing on headphones before a race. And that's the only part of it that's kind of variable, is the music I'm listening to before a race. So I would use it so that if I was in an atmosphere that was great, and then I felt a little bit nervous, I'd listen to music that's pretty chill. So for me, that would be like punk rock, or like even country music. It's something to like calm myself down a little bit. If it was a horrible atmosphere, I'd get myself like pretty amped up. So I'd listen to like heavy metal or rap. And then if I felt like I was in a good zone, I'd listen to the house music. So that's kind of the way I utilize music before a race. And then it's similar in a ready room. And I'm glad you brought up these poses, because I'm a big people watcher in a ready room. So it's like you're sitting down, like it's literally like this. You're in a room like this. You're sitting down, and you've got 8 guys around you, and it's usually a really small area. So it would be like from me to you guys. It's the size of this room, and you got 8 guys stuffed in there. So like when I would be getting ready for races, I would look around at the guys in the ready room, and I would really draw confidence off that. You know, I would pull energy from those guys. I feel like I would look around and I'd be like, man, that guy's just looking at the ground. He's freaking out, like he's toast. Or you have the people who are just like shaking, like they can't like control their like movements. And I'd be like, all right, that guy's also freaking out, like he's toast. And like I would draw confidence from that. I'm like, all right, those are 2 guys that I feel like I've already beaten. And I've talked to a lot of guys on the national team about this, and they feel the same way. Like I remember a conversation with Chase Kalish where he was talking about at Panpax, his biggest competitor was this Japanese guy. And he doesn't speak English, so Chase can't talk to him. But what Chase would do is he'd get in the ready room, he'd throw on his headphones, and he would just look at him. And when the guy made eye contact, he would immediately look away. And Chase was like, all right, like he's intimidating. Like I've got him. And so there's a lot of, there is a lot of power to your body language, especially before a race. And it's not something you guys should overthink, but for me, just getting in my zone with headphones, like I could block all that stuff out. Like I have no idea if someone's looking at me while I'm like dancing and crap before my race in a ready room. So just doing stuff to get you in a zone where you look confident, you feel confident, I think is really important.
Yeah, that's something that can even be practiced, right? Like at other meets, or you can just, like I always say, try it on. Because if it doesn't feel right, you won't want to use it at your bigger meet.
You know, I think that helps with, if you're someone that gets super nervous before a race, just having a routine that's pretty set.
Yeah.
It is so important. Like, at that point, when you get to the pool, like I would get to the pool, I always get to the pool like 2 hours and 15 minutes before my race. And run through some stretches, foam rolling, warm up, get out, stretch some more, get back in, throw on my suit, go to the race. And I do that every time. So it's just like knowing my plan, knowing how long everything is going to take is something that I can focus on throughout the warm-up, as opposed to how I feel or what the outcome of the race is going to be. So really, like I said, this is kind of related to something I said before. Just bringing it down to the simplest point is what I think has been super key in me being able to perform in these good meets.
So that's great that you said that as well. We didn't plan this, but they on in your workbook, it's not a success guide. I apologize for that. I never call anything work because you have enough of it. But on page 30, 31, you've got your pre-competition routine. You can start working on it. It's a work in progress. Like I said, trying things on, maybe watching, some of the more seasoned athletes and what do they look like? Do I want to try that? Or noticing what you don't want to do. And that might be your competition, that you get the same feeling that Ryan does, or the same idea, or you just have this knowingness that they're toast, right? We like that. That's the way it goes. That's what you want. So the in-competition routine's on page 34. And then if you look at page 35, 36, and I'm just running through this, you have plenty of time to look at it after you leave here. But that's your post-meet reflection information, which is really important. Because what you learned from the meet that you just finished, and the sooner you can get that information, the better, is going to help you for the next meet, right? Do you have a system for that, or?
Correct. I mean, everything's always a work in process. So, the way I think of a season is sharpening a spear. Like when you're at the beginning of the season, you have all this stuff that you can work on and are going to work on. And as the season progresses, as you get closer to your championship meet or your peak of your spear, everything kind of funnels in. You figure out, for example, in a pre-race routine, you figure out what you want to utilize and what you don't. Some of these techniques, which techniques are you really gonna latch onto and hold onto, and which ones are you like, all right, maybe not right now. So it's just like figuring out what works for you, and by the end, you have everything dialed. You know exactly what you want to do pre-race, warm-up wise, and I just use those meets at the beginning of the season to kind of filter out what you do and do not want to use.
So, any questions about anything so far? Okay, very good. So, another thing that you might want to take a look at in your book, let's move on to the way we distort our thoughts. Page 19, 20, 23, it's all in that area. But there's an audio that I have that goes, with this that takes you through, and in here it also has the examples. You can use that one if you want to. It gives some scenarios, and I didn't just make these up. I borrowed them from interviews and just listening to athletes talk and also working with them face to face. So there are a lot of ways that we can use thinking that is really becomes habitual, okay, in a bad way. And so if we form a habit with not always what we could recognize as negative thinking, but thinking that just isn't helping our performance or pushing us forward, then those habits are stored back there subconsciously. So when we might think we've sort of taken care of that and we solved that problem, we really haven't. And that shows up whenever you go out there to perform and you don't feel as confident as you were simply telling yourself to be, or changing that idea or talking back to it. So one way to change that, and let's just take an example. And I think I want to skip, let's go to page 21, number 6, okay? Because the what ifs, okay? How many of you future pace, and there are two ways you do it. You can future pace, thinking about the outcome in terms of what will go right, what you want, and you can future pace in terms of what if it could go wrong, and that doesn't help very much, right? So if you're always making it up if you start with the two words what if. How many people have used this, what if this happens, what if that happens? How many? It's probably going to be all of you. Yeah. Okay. So if you're saying what if, you're making it up, right? I mean, is there somebody in here that can predict the future? I mean, no, really? You got that? Okay, I'm hiring you. I know a lot of people that will hire you right now. Okay, but we really don't know what's going to happen, do we? Because we don't know, even if we could control everything that was going to happen to us, we don't know what's going to happen around us. And I call them the uncontrollables. You don't know what's going to happen. So, what you want to do, if you're going to do it, it's called catastrophizing, because you're thinking what ifs in a negative direction. If you're going to make something up, at least make something up that's positive. That can't hurt you. It really can't. You can deal with it if it doesn't happen, but you have a really great chance or better chance of it happening if you do. So let's just look at this one. You're swimming the mile. Okay, how many people even like hearing that? I mean, Ashley's not here. Okay, so some people, yeah, there you go. And you're 550 yards into your event, right? And you say to yourself, and this is just for you, what if I get a cramp? What if something happens and I can't finish? Or what if the other swimmers lap me? These are just common, right? Can you think of any other what ifs related to that? Okay, there you go.
What if my goggles get water in them?
There you go. All right. What if you choke? Good. What if I pass out? Yes. What if I miscount? That's a good one for the mile. That was good. I'll have to add that. That's great. Yes. What if your counter messes up? Okay, yeah. Yeah. What if lightning strikes the pool? Okay, that just makes your heart rate go up right there, doesn't it? Yes. What if you go too fast in the beginning? So you get put out too much energy in the beginning of the race, and you think you're might die, right? Isn't that what we call it? Which is a horrible word to use if you think about it. Yeah, it's very emotionally loaded. I mean, it's like the worst thing that can happen to you, right? So, Jacob. What if I don't go the right pace? Okay. Okay, so what if I'm really sick? I have a fever and a choke in the water, and what was the last part? Get DQ'd. Okay, what if I get DQ'd? That's good. Okay, keep going. Ryan, you just point them out. Keep going, because you get. What if your tech suit gets loose? Did you have one back there? Did you guys have one? Yeah. No? Okay. I'm sure you have one. Okay. Yes. What if I miss the wall on my turn? That would be interesting. Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know. You guys. That's right. Yeah, no worries then. You just know you don't have one. So, all right, let's take a few more. Okay.
Wait,
what if my coach gets angry at me? Okay.
Which kid?
Right next to the one that's closest to me.
What if I mess up my die? Okay. What if I get beaten by my friends? Very good. Those are all really good ones. Oh, but I haven't heard from you. Go ahead. What if my teammates get really upset with me? Okay. What if I hit my head, bump my head on the wall? Is there anybody we haven't heard from? Did you have one?
I was gonna say, what will other people think of your race?
What will other people think of my race? And that could be a lot of different people, right? It could be anything from parents to teammates to whatever. So that's good. Those are all really great. Do you see how amazing they are at coming up with worry thoughts?
Yeah, it was like
It was a lot faster, wasn't it?
as you guys were coming, yeah.
I mean, their hands were going up like left and right. But it also helps remind us of how many things we do worry about, right? And that means there are a lot of things we need to let go of. So we got a couple of, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these things are stuff. It's stuff that you practice every day. You know, it's like what if I miss my turn? What if I get a cramp? What if I pace wrong? You know, it's like stuff like this it's what you do every day. So like for me, one of my big what ifs is what if I swallow water? And like that's happened to me in a race at Worlds. And like how do you deal with that? And you just, what I think is you just deal with it the same way you deal with things in practice, you know? So, like, I'm at the point now where it's like, if I get a cramp in my foot in practice, I'm finishing the lap. Like, I'm not just like stopping and like stretching my foot right there. Like, you have to learn to deal with some of these uncomfortable things in practice. And then by the time you get to the meet, like, you're gonna run into everything in practice. Your goggles are gonna fill up. All of this stuff that you brought up that's controllable, like outside of there being like no wall, like there's all of this is stuff that you can run. So it is all stuff that is practicable and just making your approach consistent.
That's right. And so part of what Ryan's saying is that he answers the question, what if? He answers his own question. If you're going to ask the question, be prepared to answer it. He knows what he's going to do if he gets a cramp. And so you can start, brainstorming and coming up with ideas. Talk to other people. You know, Ryan's offering ideas today. And come up with a plan for that so it doesn't cause you so much worry. The other thing you can do is you can ask yourself another question in a more positive direction. You know, it's very simple to flip any of them. Somebody name one that we heard, because there were so many. No missing wall. Yeah. So go ahead.
Lightning striking the pool.
What if lightning strikes the pool? Okay. What if it
didn't?
What if it doesn't?
Exposed. Exposed.
Yeah.
I think the hardest
Which is more likely.
Yeah, I think the hardest one to deal with is when you flip the positive, what if I have a terrible race? And you flip it to the positive, what if I have a great race? You know, and what goes along with having a great race? You know, I mean, there are some, like, I get it. Like, you have some insecurities about having a great race, and what does that do? What does that do to expectations and all of that? So, I think that's the hardest one to deal with, for sure.
Yeah. And so what do you guys think about that, trying something different? Because that's what this is all about. It's for you to start moving your minds in a different direction and adding skills that are actually helping instead of holding you back. We don't realize that when these things, they become cumulative, they add up, and they do have a lot to do with your performance, good or bad. And so what have you got to lose by going in the right direction? You've got a really good chance that things are going to be at least better than they would have been. You can absolutely sabotage it. And I think too, another thing that happens is you have, this is a concept that happens often, your first race isn't your best race. And a lot of people define their whole meet by that first race. And it's simply not always the case. Have you ever had situations where your first race was off, but you did well in other events?
Yeah. And like I remember it was at Olympic trials, or even this past summer at nationals. They did my 100 free. I'll talk about nationals this past summer. They did my 100 free, and I was just really disappointed in my race after. So I talked to my coach, and I was like, you know what? If I'm not feeling great, like my 100 free is just not there. And then I mean that's a bad statement in itself to say that. But what he said to me, it was like man, like you have 3 more races this heat. Like you gotta get on a team, and you just gotta like bring it back. So I like sat out that night, I didn't swim in the B final, and just kind of like prepped myself for my next races. So yeah, it's definitely hard and challenging to come off the first race of the meet. But like especially at your guys' age, you're not really only swimming one stroke, and you're definitely not swimming just one distance. So you have multiple opportunities at every meet to be your best. So for me, there's sometimes where my speed is great, sometimes where my distance is great, and you just never know what's going to be clicking at that time.
Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason for it. We're never going to figure it out, so you just have to go with it. So that's great. Is it helping for Ryan to normalize some of the things that have been happening to you and realize that it happens at every level and you can do something about it? Because I would think so. Okay. So we've been sitting down for a bit. So are you ready to do another exercise? Yeah. Okay, you like those? Okay, so let's do another power of the mind exercise. And actually, we'll bring one person up, but we're all going to do it. Okay? All right, so have you been up yet? Is there anybody volunteer that hasn't been up yet? Okay, come on up.
Actually, you have to get rid of but it's only temporary because you can't have an infinite dose of math.
Come on, Einstein.
Oh no, I don't want to sit in that.
What if you have like a
How far is someone?
what's in Nick, you know what else? Nick, you know.
He's bringing his chair. I told him I didn't think about people way back there. If I just sit it right there. Okay. So Ryan, if you will, while we're doing this, after we're doing this, we're going to have everybody else kind of do it too at the same time. You just check and make sure they're doing it correctly as I describe it. Okay, good. So you want to face me. Okay. And so what I want you to do is just take your fingers and lock them like this. Really tight. Got it? And not to where it hurts you. And then I want you to take these 2 fingers and hold them about 1 inch apart. Just about 1 inch. Does that look about right? Right? Just like that. And I want you to focus, and you can kind of, I'll swivel this way so I'm staring at you. But I want you to just focus on the space between those 2 fingers. Okay? Just the space directly between the 2 fingers, not outwardly, but just between those 2 fingers. And as you do, I'm going to relax for a minute as I talk to you. And I just want you to think these thoughts. I want you to imagine that I just placed two very powerful magnets on the insides of those fingertips. And those magnets are attracting and pulling and coming together and doing what magnets do. They're just pulling and tugging towards each other. And when they come together, if they come together, you can go ahead and put your hands down in your lap and Ryan will notice. And just keep focusing intently on that space between your two fingers. Letting the magnets simply do what they do. Attract, pull, push together, come together. Just staring at the space between them. Not trying to make anything happen, but allowing the energy just to do what it does. Coming together, the magnets pulling. Even when you're resisting, they become so powerful. And once you've got it, just put your hands in your lap. And if you're still in the same place, imagine that I placed an even stronger magnet on there. There you go. And all that energy is pulling them closer and closer. Okay, you lost your focus there. Very good. And just allow yourself to breathe and continue to look through that space. Okay, so what happened there? You're always going to get different responses with this. Thank you. How did he do, by the way?
I'm still eating.
Yeah, he was pretty suggestible. So what I did was were there any magnets on your fingers? No, of course not. No, but your mind put them there, right? Because I suggest that you had magnets, and I just use words like coming together and closer, and I reminded you to keep fixated on that space, right? So did anybody's fingers not come together? Okay, good. All right, so what's the difference? Did anybody have trouble focusing between the two fingers? They started, looking to the right or the left or noticing peripheral vision, anything like that? What that means is anyone whose fingers came together, again, that's a high suggestibility test. So that means that's good news. So as long as you give yourself good suggestions or you surround yourself with other people who do or are willing to do that, then you're going to be in really great shape. And your changes will probably come more quickly. And the rest of you just need a little bit more practice focusing and accepting suggestions, okay? Because sometimes we don't mean to, but our subconscious mind just rejects the suggestions. How did that feel? What was that like for you?
Well, I was trying. I'm struggling a lot.
So you were actually even trying to resist a little bit? Okay. All right, very good. So when you practice that again on your own or in groups or whatever, because you can do that. You can do them in groups and have one person make the suggestions. Because it also forces you to kind of go back into that subconscious mind and create some suggestions of your own to see what words you can use to make that more powerful. Yes?
Can you, for one of them, have your fingers not come together, the other one on, the timer, fly?
So sometimes they might come together faster.
But I mean, can it have, completely opposite results for two different tests? Can that happen?
The same test done twice?
No. Test
Oh, yes. Yeah.
He's doing it in the bathroom.
swung a lot, but for this, my fingers become better. So can I for different types of tests, and then be different results?
Yeah, because you're getting different suggestions. And that's one way when we're working with a little bit more complicated cases with athletes and their thinking. Sometimes we find that it's certain words that are used that they simply don't accept the suggestions for whatever reason. We don't know. But it's important to know because if a coach or someone trying to give you advice is using that language, it won't work. Kind of nice to know, isn't it? So I think coaches are becoming more and more interested in this because they have a tendency to say things the same way. Does that make sense, right? Is that a fair statement?
I think that this example and this would be kind of a different scenarios. Sometimes you're gonna get coaches that that are just like a little bit more hard nosed. Like they're gonna give things to you very unfiltered, and like sometimes they do it in an aggressive way. And like for me, like if a coach tells me that I need to be going faster, working harder, or whatever, like I just get super mad, and I completely reject them. So it's not even like a word, it's like a tone that I don't respond to. So I mean, I know that, and like my coaches have become aware of that. So it's usually like they're giving me like technical feedback, stuff that I can really implement right away, as opposed to go faster and work harder. So yeah, I just respond to things being broken down to like the simplest point, and I know that. So it's good. I'm good to explain that to people who are.
It's a good awareness that you have. And you really have to get to the point where you have it, so you learn something about yourself a little bit that I can explain to you later. But I would say that, and you said your coaches have that awareness, is that because you communicated that to them?
Oh, I think they can tell too.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, Dave Vernon doesn't usually yell, but Yuri used to. So in the first couple times Yuri yelled at me, and I'm ticked off at him. He sense that, and it did nothing to improve my performance at times. But there's some guys on the team that need that. He yells, and then they pick up their speed immediately. So yeah, it is different in my personal.
If you have a coach that doesn't necessarily pick up on that, because we all have different situations, different, a lot of you have the same coach, or a few of you are in other teams, but then you may have to be responsible for having some communication, and I think a lot of athletes are afraid of that often, but it's really going to work in your favor. So maybe you have to do some bilateral stimulation before you go to talk to them, try to feel better, whatever it is you need to do. So, okay, so let's shift gears just for a second and talk about what I call an energy audit. Sometimes, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, you're getting ready to race and you're just kind of flat. For all, everything leading up to the race indicates that you should be ready, and you feel in your mind you are ready, but you get there and you just don't have a lot of energy. What can you do about that? Does anybody have a technique for that? Okay. You drink coffee, okay. That's one way. Yes. Sleep is amazing. Sleep is the first thing I would check off the list to make sure you're getting good sleep. Do you remember when I first sent you that audio and you said, can you make me one for naps?
Yeah.
And so we made the prelims final audio to listen to between prelims and final. And I think a lot of you use that one. You've got to get not the right amount of rest between, not too much, but certainly enough. And actually kind of put whatever happened in the morning behind you, because it doesn't matter anyway at that point. So that's a good audio for that. But yes?
Like when it's hard to form meat, I usually drink beet juice after warm up or something like that.
Beet juice.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Those are good things. So what if you're now behind the blocks, or not quite? Okay, some next heat, and you're back here, and for whatever reason, true or not true, you've decided you don't have enough energy. You got to do something, right? Because if you carry that thought with you into the pool, what's going to happen? I wish I had a video of, and I do have, I'm putting one together, of different athletes behind, getting ready to start behind the next heat, and what they're doing with their bodies. They're normally producing energy somehow. And I don't know well, I do kind of know some of yours, but I'm not going to, I'll let you finish. But one thing you can do, and some of you again have used this, is you can start, putting some energy, bringing up some energy into different extremities. So yeah, so you can slap your legs. You want to get some energy in there. You can do, and it comes in many forms. I've seen it. But one basic one is to make sure you get something in your legs. Make sure you got it somewhere in the hands, especially if it's cold. And rubbing them together and getting some heat. And then I'm going to say this, but I'm not going to show you how to do it yet. I want to see what happens. And then, when you get heat, it's got to be really hot. And then putting your arms in streamline.
Wait, what?
Yep. Okay, good job. Because a lot of people are out here. And what would happen if you put if you got all of that energy and you directed it out this way? You're gonna not unless you're doing back stroke, that doesn't count right now. You're gonna go down to the bottom of the pool. I mean, the energy is gonna be directed to the bottom of the pool. So, have you guys seen different athletes, or do you have a routine yourself to bring up that energy? I'd like to hear some of the ideas because you're going to learn from each other, and then we'll ask Ryan what he does. Yes.
I jump up and down.
Jump up and down. Good. Good job. Yes. So he actually uses this technique, and it's worked well, hasn't it? And then music, with music. Yes.
Dancing behind the blocks.
Dancing behind the blocks. You know, we know some at nationals that we're doing that. Right? Anyway, go ahead.
Breathing slightly harder so you can get more energy.
Yes, yes, and that's the technique we're going to talk about today. Good. So that's one of the 3 breathing techniques you got. Very good. I like that. Yes.
If the water's cold,
Okay. Just to get some warmth and energy. Yep. Okay. Now, does visualizing your race give you energy? Good. It will if you're visualizing it in a good way, right? A positive way. If you're visualizing it's not going to go well, or a lot of those what ifs, probably won't. So that's good. Anybody else? Okay, let's see what Ryan does.
Yeah, so when I'm in the ready room, I'll listen to music. I hit myself like pretty hard, and like I don't know if you've noticed it, but I do notice the difference between whether I have like an open hand or like a closed. And when I have it closed, I mean it's like it just literally a little bit harder, and like you don't get like any. Like I want to see kind of like red spots, you know, that I know that there's blood there, you know? Does that make sense? So like when I hit myself, like it's like hard enough that I know that there's blood flowing in that area. So like, and I also, it's a little bit different for each race. So like I'll hit my legs a lot before backstroke, because legs are just gonna like pound on backstroke. But then if I'm swimming freestyle, I'm gonna like a little bit more like laps in there and like traps. So that's what I'm doing in the ready room. When I'm in loss, I'm kind of doing like fast movements. So like, I don't know, I like that one for some reason.
Nice and open, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's one of the ones I do behind the blocks. Yeah, and then when I hop in the water, I just do the same thing in the water before my backstroke starts. So like I'll put my arms up, get those set, and like push away from the wall and like stretch out my hamstrings a little bit, and then adjust my hands, and then it's go time.
So that's good advice for backstrokers as well, right? In the water. So we've never really talked about in the water. Like, I've been ignoring backstroke. It's terrible. Not really. I haven't. Just a little. So, okay, so let's stand up and try that exercise, that technique. Okay? Yeah. I mean, we don't want you to hurt yourself, but you do want to get a little blood flow in there. Okay. So before you do it, let's make sure we're doing it correctly. And try not to flail and hurt anyone. You can spread out if you want to. I know you're probably ready to move a little bit. Yeah. And so let's do this. David, do you mind demonstrating it? Am I get ready? Okay. Okay, so before you start, I want you to watch David. Okay, guys, let's watch David, and then I'll say go. Okay? Yeah. All right, so start down there. Pretty hard. Yep, we gotta make it burn now. Is it burning? You're still burning, you don't have any extra. There you go. Perfect. Okay, when you get really, and you can try it again, but when you get really good at it, when you know you're doing it correctly, you'll feel the energy at least from here out the front part of your arm. The more you do it, the more energy you get. So that's worth working on. If you didn't feel it, do it again. Plus you need to move, so. Do it 5 times. Thanks for demonstrating. Good job. Oh yeah. If you have red hands or legs, show us. We want to see it. Okay, good job. Good job. Okay. Absolutely. Okay, so here's the other thing. You don't want to be afraid to use whatever works for you. You don't want to be worried about what other people think, right? Because I notice a lot of swimmers, even at higher level meets, they look very timid on the block, behind the block. Sometimes. And sometimes their swims toward, they coincide with that lack of energy. And I'm not sure, it could be maybe the meet's just a little bit different, it has more media coverage. I'm not sure, but we've been kind of studying that and looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm racing, I always feel like there's someone that's controlling the heat. And that doesn't mean that they're going out super fast and ahead from the beginning, but there's always someone that everyone else is kind of keeping their eye on. And it's hard to say who that person's going to be. It's not always the person with the best time. So I think there's definitely ways to be that person to control the heat, just in the way you carry yourself.
So you guys inspired to carry yourself differently and start practicing. You can even do it in front of a mirror, whatever, start practicing some of these things. Just in terms of posturing and adding more energy, or if you're too nervous, using, whatever form you can come up with, discreet or not. Some people don't care, and which is a great thing. If you don't care and you're just doing what you need to calm down, then that's even better, and you want to get better and better at that. Another thing that, you know what I'd like to see though? We did talk about the power poses, but I didn't see any of you actually use one. There are 2, I know, right? This is going to be, you have to be silly and play. If you're not silly and play, you can't get out of your front brain, right? We're just analyzing everything. So there are 2 poses that they know are very effective. You may have heard of these, right? Oh, it won't. Yep, this one. Absolutely. And where, it's expanded, right? Nothing's closed. Everything's open. And then there are more. Does anybody else know any more? Yeah, that one. You saw that one, right? Yeah, if you're in they don't suggest it for a job interview, but they do suggest that you do something like that before you go to the job interview. If you kick back like that in the job interview, they'll probably think you want their job, and it's not gonna happen. Yes. Or you're too relaxed. Yeah, it's open, right? So anything open. Yes. Okay, bring it down like that. It's open as well. There you go. Okay, T-pose will work. It's nice and expanded. Have you guys noticed, since I pointed it out earlier, that Ryan, how much of that expansion he uses even just to talk? So you're well trained. Good job. But it became natural, right? Yeah. Was there ever a time when you think it was different?
Yeah. So when I was in, I actually learned about some of this stuff in business school. We have a class called Business Communications. So a lot of that's about presence, first impressions, but it's mostly geared towards job interviews. So the teacher was talking about, he was an incredible public speaker, and so what he said is he would always come back to here, and as he was making a big point, he'd bring his arm out to here. So, and he would just kind of live in this little zone here. It's like pitch, that type of thing. You live in that zone. You guys probably haven't seen that movie.
I have. I've seen it.
I think that class helped a lot with learning about some of that stuff. So I would say that's the only other time I've really been introduced to it. Or that's the first time it's really introduced.
But you picked it up and you're using it, and that's great. So that's an important point that you're gonna learn these things that are important in other areas like that. So, but you can, I mean, you can even Google them. There are all kinds of power poses that you can do, and you see the ones up there. I mean, this is a common one too. Like you notice, a lot of times I'm putting my hands on the desk as long as it's open. And just having that awareness again. So everybody get up and try.
I'll show you one of my,
Oh, yeah.
my favorite. It's not even a power pose, it's just like a power move. So I was taking a sports marketing class. Oh, you put settle down, you're gonna miss your move.
Yeah,
Alright,
don't
I
miss
was
it.
taking a sports marketing class, and my teacher had this unreal watch. It was like, you know, like his entire forearm. And it's not like he was a small guy, like he was a big dude. He'd get to the beginning of each class. It's like 8 a.m. So it's like, not even like he's had this watch on for a while. So he'd like take his watch and put it at the top of his like little like lectern thing every class. And that was like his power move. At the beginning of every class, he'd take off his watch, throw it down, and then he'd start lecturing. And I don't know how many people noticed, but that every time I was like, man, that is just like super intimidating.
And you did it with force, right? I mean, that was pretty, it was an attention getter for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. I thought that was an awesome power move that you did there.
So it's important that everybody has a power move, right?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Power move.
So why don't you come up with a power move right now? It could be a pose, or it could be a word. I know it is. We opened up again, we did, but here's what I want to do. I want to encourage you on the count of 3 just to get up and do something that's out of your comfort zone that will represent a power move, and here's why. The thing I talked about, not being afraid but doing what you need, just give it a try. No one cares in here, and they're all going to do it so you can tease each other equally or whatever, but you don't need to. So I'm going to count. Lala, Ryan count. You said loud. Do it. On 3, just jump up and.
Don't make this like dangerous.
Yeah, don't hurt someone. Do you think when Michael Phelps was doing that, that was a power?
So on the count of 3, just do something that you feel like gives you confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of like the.
It's calling it up.
Yeah, it's just like to make yourself feel really confident. All right, so on the count of 3, we'll do that. 1, 2, 3.
Go. There you go. I get all kinds of versions here. There you go. I saw them all. Got his shirt there. I want to see that one. Okay. All right. We also found another person. They got on that move. They've been watching, sitting and watching all this. They did it. Did you see anything really interesting? Oh wow, do you think he would do that on deck? He might fall. Okay.
So what I thought was interesting is you just stood up and I feel like you almost didn't even know what to do, so he just stood like this. Like you just went straight to the actual power stance, which is cool. Because I mean, if you could get confidence just standing there, like without having to make noise, like you could do it in any sort of situation. You know, you could do that like walking into a class. Right. You know, one of the things you could do this even with walking. Like one of the things we talked about at Cal is a term we called walking big. You know, and we had a guy that would come in to talk to us every once in a while, and the way he described walking big is he went and shadowed an open heart surgeon. So he said, I mean, they would go in, they would meet for 30 minutes before the surgery, discuss the surgery. These surgeries are hours long, but you have such a short amount of time to get it right, or else the patient passes away. And you know, he talked about how they would do this. They would do these things so meticulously. And then the surgery would end, they would recap. And he said he's never seen people walk bigger than the people that perform those heart surgeries. You know, you walk out of that room and you feel like you've done a great job. You know, you've saved someone's life, and you know, he said those guys would just walk so tall, like walk bigger than they were, or bigger than their frame was. And so I think that's something that's really powerful. So you can do it in any part of your life. If you can get that confidence even from a walk, is what I'm trying to get to there.
Can you demonstrate that walk for us?
Well, I mean, I think for us, like when we were walking into NCs, like we would just be like, you're not like walking with your head down. Like I know people that walk like this, and it's like there's just no confidence portrayed from that. And especially on a swim meet, like you want to be confident going in there, especially when you're with a group of guys. So like walking into a swim meet, like even if you're just talking to your friend, like if I walk into a swim meet and I just look like I don't even care that there's a swim meet going up. If I'm just like talking to a friend, looking super comfortable in my atmosphere, I think that's pretty intimidating. So it's just like whatever you feel like is intimidating to competitors is how I think you kind of utilize that.
I've seen you do that, actually.
Yeah.
So, no matter how it felt today when we were just kind of playing with you guys and trying to get you to play and get us count 1, 2, 3, one thing that you became aware of at that moment was how comfortable you were doing that. And it's okay if you weren't, but it is something to be aware of because you want to overcome anything that intimidates you or makes you afraid to do what we know we need to add in terms of making you a little bit more, stronger, more confident, and having that approach that Ryan's talking about. So just, you can practice it again in the privacy of your own home in the mirror with a friend, somebody you trust that they're not going to give you too much grief, but they'll give you some feedback, or watch some things online. There's a lot on there. So, but I encourage you to do that because it does matter and it will affect your performance in everything you do. So, good job. Okay, any questions so far on anything we've done?
What if you're high power, low power? What if you're not high but not low, like you're in between?
What would that look like?
I don't know what that would look like. I feel like
That's a good question. That was a what if question too. I couldn't have done even. What if so you're in the middle? Where would you want to go? Because where do you want to be? Yeah. So if you are, and you notice you are, you feel that you are, that's when you want to do something. That's when you would want to practice one of these or anything you can think of, because like I was trying to get you to show me anything that involves expansion or not, being closed and afraid and timid. There are a lot of ways you can overcome that too. If any of you are in drama, drama? I would have suspected that given your move back there. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
So what about like for me specifically, I'm never feeling like low in here, like I'm confident or something, but just for me, my shoulders just feel like so heavy sometimes. It's like, and most of the time I sit like this just because it's like how I sit, but I'm not like feeling low power, like I'm not empowered or something. It's just like how.
What do you feel like when you sit like that?
Like this, I'm just like, my shoulder feels so good. It's like the rest of it. Like not even looking, like this feels so comfortable.
Okay. So, but you're not really hunching over like the pictures, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So there's a difference in when you're trying. So we're talking about being intentional to create something. You said you feel confident, right? You have a lot of that. So it's not really an issue for you because you figured it out, right? But other people, not so much. I know just from watching a lot of people that didn't participate, which is completely fine, but part of it is their comfort zone is not there yet. And you're going to be faced with a lot of things that take you out of your comfort zone, right? So, I mean, how many have you had from this, when you were sitting in here at this age or not in here, but so many.
Yeah, I mean anything from going to like on the swimming side, going to major meets, to the classroom, like getting up and doing presentations in front of a lot of people, or like more recently doing presentations in front of adults who have more experiences and probably more knowledge than you. So it's just like figuring out ways to feel confident in those types of settings. It's definitely not easy, but you're gonna be out of your comfort zone all the time. That's just a fact of life.
Yeah, Coach Jeff is like, yep. I think that confidence is an ongoing skill. I don't think we don't have mental toughness. We don't arrive at that, or we're faced with new challenges and new situations where we're a little bit out of our comfort zone, but we're willing to do something to change it. And we might get advice, or we may just learn, again, trial and error, what that is. But the most important thing is you don't stay stuck there. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
I think one of the best lines I've heard is confidence is your most fragile attribute. Like you could just get knocked off your confidence in a second. So like having these tools to build your confidence back up, I think is super key.
One of the easiest ways to get knocked off your confidence is to start comparing yourself to other people, when in fact they may not have anything to do with you. You may be at completely different levels, especially as you're growing and changing. A lot of times we're saying things like, we've got this scale, we're not that good, and that really holds you back. I think you need to kind of focus on what you want and where you are and where you can get to, or where you're headed, and get that focus back, because I think that's something we see a lot. Is that, comparing.
Especially in a sport like swimming, where it's just time on scoreboard. So, I mean, that is very hard.
We talked about that not too long ago in here. When you show up for a meet, how many places you see numbers, not just times, but we've got the stopwatches and the board, but they start. I mean, when we were in here collectively, the group came up with about 20 things, just right, like they did the what ifs. And it was all the way down to what the tag in your suit, what size suit you're going to buy, or so it's pretty amazing. And then you always have people wanted or not that are telling you your times, or if you're talking to somebody, I don't know, you know what I'm saying. You can just hear it. So, okay, so I would, one of the things, and then we'll do another demo, and then it's probably going to be time for questions. And does anybody else have anything for Ryan to sign? You want him to sign your books, or okay? So we'll probably do. I have one more quick thing to say, and then we'll do one. I always like to end on an exercise, and it's something everybody can do, and save the favorite for last. So on page 7 is the beginning of the mental toughness assessment. That gives you it's information rich in terms of giving you some feedback about where you are right now in terms of mental toughness. So when you have time, it also tells you how to score it. If you want me to look it over, because my email is on this book, send me your scores and I'll talk to you about them, okay? But what it'll tell you is, where right now do you need the most work? Is it in terms of attitude, winning attitude, pressure, or focus? Because you got to start somewhere. They're all important, but you need to start, I would say, where and this is, you're the one filling it out, so just be honest and see what it tells you about yourself. Some of you have already done this. If you have, since this is a new book, I would do it again, because you have a baseline to compare it to and see how much progress you've made, because at this point, most of you, you have made progress in terms of not only times, but a lot of you made progress on dealing with, controlling emotions, or dealing with other people and tuning that out, and all kinds of different things. So I'm really proud of you guys for that. But so if you don't have to do it all right now, but try to get that done at some point and let me know, and I'll help you with that. Because what I'm planning to do, I have an audio, some of you may have it, but it's creating a winning attitude. And I'm going to usually they're like in the store, like on my website, but I'm gonna send you that one with a code, and the code is, there's gonna be like a follow-up email. Jeff, can you get that if I send it to parents, so they'll have it too? The code is, are you ready for this? Easy to remember. Ryan Murphy. So, yeah, there's a code for a free audio for you to listen to. Yeah, it's a relaxation audio for you to listen to, and it promotes a really good, basically it's helping you create a really strong inner coach.
Spaces caps.
No, it's for life. You don't have, yeah.
Spaces.
No, just like his name would be, capital R and capital N, just with space, yeah. We kept it pretty simple. Yeah.
No space or yes?
We tried to. So,
Email this to us?
before we do any more questions, we're gonna get rowdy, I guess again. Let's do one more exercise. We'll have Brian do it too. Should we have Brian do it? Yeah. So just, I would stand up and just kind of gravitate towards, like you might have to spread out a little bit because you are gonna have some range. Make sure you have this much room. Brian, I'm losing my voice with the microphone. Okay, and just trying to position yourself and where you're not really like directly in front, like looking at someone or worrying about them. Again, you want to keep it focused. There you go. All right. Is everybody spread out? You guys see? All right, we just need to get really quiet now. And all you have to do is just close your eyes. Put your hands down by your side. And then I just want you to take one of your hands and just bring it up. You can just watch me. Open your eyes for a second. Just bring one up, about this far, facing the ceiling. Okay? And then take the other arm, palms down. Okay? You ever done this, Ryan? Okay, very good. Yeah, right. No, we'll have to talk about that. That's great. Okay, now I want you to close your eyes with your arms just like that. And I just want you to imagine that in that open palm, I'm going to place a book. Okay, it's not too heavy. It's about like the book I gave you this morning. I'm going to place that book in that hand. And I just want you to know that you can hold that for a really long time, even though it becomes uncomfortable. And I need for you to do that. Keeping your eyes closed and imagining that there's a book in that hand. And in the other hand, there's a balloon tied to your finger. And so it feels lighter. Just one helium balloon, but as we know that helium balloons work, they start to become airy and lift higher towards the sky. And in that other hand, I want you to know that I'm about to place just one more book, and I'm sorry, it is a little bit heavier. Yeah, it's got some weight to it, it's a little bit weighty. But continue to hold that, and maybe focus on that other hand that's light and airy. It's got now 3 helium balloons on it. And it's just feeling lighter and higher. Just hold that, but you've got this, you've got this, you can do it. Just enjoying that lightness of the one hand and tolerating the heaviness of the other. And now I'm about to place just one more that you can handle. You can do that. And as I place this book, I want you to realize that it's a red book. And it's a new book, so it's got that new book smell. You know what that smells like? It's plastic. Yeah. And hold it for just a second as you imagine that those balloons going up towards the sky, up into the clouds, and just further away. And now don't change your hands, but open your eyes and see where you're at. All right. Look at that. Does it hurt? That's interesting, right? So, I didn't see Coach Jeff. What did he look like? What did you like? Oh, you like that? Pretty good. Okay. Now, Now, let me tell you one thing about that. Yeah, you're completely normal. So if I had added some, remember before we did twice we did the pendulum, we used the stopwatch. The second time I added some more language. If I had said, I'm putting a huge book, okay, your hand would go down further, all right? Or if I had said, I'm placing a massively large book into your hand. Yeah, but you guys were already in enough pain, it looked like. They were pretty highly suggestible, a lot of them. Or if I said, you're loaded with books, right? Okay, what comes to mind? It feels really heavier, right? The same thing would have been true for feeling light and airy in the balloons and going up in the sky. But so we can, my point with that is we're highly suggestible to ourselves, and sometimes we internalize the suggestions of other people. So we have to be selective and pay attention and notice what needs to change and what we can improve on or make better and really great for us, okay? And just be aware of that. And also be aware of the language that you're using to load your emotions. If it's something that's working for you and it's helping you, feel free to load it up all you want. But if it's something that's hurting, pay attention to the words and try to take a step down in terms of the intensity and maybe even the volume of those words. Make sense? Anybody have any questions about that? Yes.
Why do you specifically mention red?
No particular reason. Yeah, because I mentioned red because I wanted you to engage one of your senses. Because you're using visualization, you're listening to me auditorily. So I added smell. I said it smelled like Plasty and a new one. So the more you engage your senses, the more suggestible you become. And so that's why hypnotists, and we haven't really talked about hypnosis today, but hypnotists use all of your senses. They'll talk about, if it's a weight loss or it's, whatever the issue is, they'll add every sense, the smell, kinesthetic, the touch, the feel of the book. I could have said, it feels a little, grainy on the outside, or, it was smooth, whatever, just to engage all of your senses, because the more senses we engage, the faster we learn and change. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, any questions for me or Ryan? He's got a little bit of voice left. I'm just about, with a microphone, just about have none. Yes?
The question's for you, and hypnotism. Can you use sound?
In hypnotism? Yes, we absolutely like to use what you call binaural beat music, and that's where you have headphones in and you have a different tone going into each ear, even though it sounds like one sound. You've used it, right? Anna, you've used it. Y'all haven't met Anna yet, but we want to thank Anna. She videotaped today and helped me out with a lot of things. Anna Gopinski. And I know some others have used them as well. So that those tones enhance the suggestions, and we know that. Because even if you just listen to that music and you need to relax, in a matter of time, you would fall asleep or relax anyway, whether we said anything or not. But we want to say something, because if you go to someone for sports hypnosis, they're only going to suggest what you told them you wanted. If you tell me you want to go, you want better turns, or you want to go, you want technically to be better, or whatever it might be, I'm going to get the coach's language, first of all, because I'm not going to mess with that. However you're being taught, I'm not going to change it. And then I'm going to incorporate all the senses and get you really, really relaxed and just have you accept the suggestions that you made anyway, okay? Do you want to know why you sometimes can't do it yourself? This would be a great place to end. It's because of the way the brain works. You have this great front brain that is only 5 to 10% of what we use. Okay, it's important because here it is. We need it for all of this. You need to study, you need to analyze, make decisions, and all of those things. So it has a place. You need it to, when you're with your coach, to learn technique and listen to his instructions and kind of put that in your mind as a habit. But this part of your brain, the subconscious mind, makes up 90 to 95% of all thinking. And that's where all of your habits are stored. There are none out here, they're all in here, good and bad. So if you want to break a bad habit, the reason that arguing and analyzing won't work is there's something between these two called the critical faculty. Again, I've pointed it out to some of you as thinking about it as a headband that's between right here, the front and the back. If we can't bypass that critical faculty of the brain, which requires relaxing and letting go of right here, analyzing and arguing, then it's just going to remain a habit over here. If we can break through it and make a suggestion that, pick on you, David, that David is no longer going to worry even if the words what if come up, okay? This part of his brain would say, yeah, I want that to happen, but, right? He's gonna have all the reasons to argue. But if you get David or anyone in a relaxed state, that level of what we call hypnosis or self-hypnosis, we go in and out of it every day, you're gonna break right through it, and then we can put what we want in that statement, and it will stay. It like breaks up, it's like little neural networks of a habit. You know, they get tighter. It's like if you had a ball of string, and I put in there, what if my goggles fall off? You know, so that's back here as a habit. Every time you go to a meet, it's in the back of your mind. You're not thinking it, but it's there, and it's causing you problems. Every time you have that thought, it just gets bigger and stronger. But if we can break through there and say, it can be as simple as, what if they don't? And assuming they're not going to, we're going to form new habits. And we know the brain really does work this way. And that's why people have trouble losing weight and, you know, stopping bad habits, because they want to use willpower, but it's going to get stuck right here. Might work for a little while, but it doesn't break, you know, put holes in these bad habits. So, does that make sense, or you want me to try to explain it another way? Yeah. So that's why whatever you do, meditation, we talked, you know, you mentioned meditation before, any kind of meditation, anytime you can get into a relaxed state and allow yourself to think about, like with those audios, they work really well because you do them in your sleep. You're pretty relaxed. You're sleeping, right? And you don't, there's no reason for you to be awake. Everybody says, well, I fell asleep. Has anybody ever listened to my audios and fallen asleep? You better raise your hand. Just kidding. So it doesn't matter if you hear it, because you're not supposed to be listening with this part of your brain, with the front part of your brain. You're supposed to relax and let the suggestions come in this way. And that's why it works so well. I train them all the time, all kinds of issues, and they have really good results. But you got, the thing is, no matter what Ryan and I told you today, if you don't use them, it won't work. So you've got to practice and try things and really be invested in changing how mentally tough you are. So thanks for having me today. And do you have any other questions for Ryan? No more for Ryan? Do you have time to do more, few signatures? Okay. Yeah, I've got some Sharpies up here if you want to get your book signed. And if you think of a question that you don't want to ask when you're sitting in your seat of either one of us, just ask us. Just come up and ask us, it's fine. We've got about 10 minutes of voice left. I didn't think I was going to go that quick.
Hey guys, as you leave, do me a favor, you have a fold-up chair.
There's a bunch.
If you just walk out this way, and you lean it, you get a fence.
Good job. Thank you.